Okay. All right. All right. Okay, so welcome to the April 2021 reading of Carmine Street Metrics. We have three terrific features today: Jeff Holt, Michael Shewmaker, and George Szirtes. And we cannot wait to hear them, and also our open. And as usual, we'll begin with our open mic readers. Let's see, the first, I think Gena Gruz is not here yet, right? Okay, so then the first open mic reader will be Rick Mullin. Let me see where he is on this. This list is not in alphabetical order. So, Rick, do you want to unmute yourself?
I think I'm on mute.
Okay, you're unmute.
Okay.
Spotlight you.
All righty, thanks. Always wonderful to be here. Big Star. Those who knew him best believed he wasn't kidding. Certainly not about his faith in Jesus. They also understood he truly felt he was the cosmos and the wind. His catastrophic rhythm notwithstanding, he conveyed a melody in simply sitting still. An acid purple aura wrapped his mayhem hair. His eyes were always burning. Adrift in London, England with his brother, he became his following, the winter air. Not seeing him, the family in Tennessee ignored his music. The prodigal returned to this ignoble grace. He made some calls and hustled in the white convertible, believing that he wasn't finished yet. Thanks.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, next is Robert Donohue. Robert, if you could unmute.
I'm unmuted. Here we go. I'm not exactly a religious person, but that's never stopped religious things from happening to me. And this one's called Mass. Although this ward is not a holy city, I realize I'm attending Sunday Mass. To my surprise, I do not find self-pity, delusions, or what woes may come to pass. My clouds are lifting. What is this, a tear? Shed for black Jesus in a comic book. And what is this? My mind begins to clear as staff returns to clothing they had took. While dressing gowns, they had me looking rough. Dressed as I'm now, I'm relatively sane. There is a way to go, but sane enough. A fellow patient chooses to exclaim, because my changing proves her point of view. Oh Lord have mercy, look what church can do.
Thanks, Robert. Okay, next is Quincy, Lehr. Quincy, if you could unmute.
We're good. We're online. We're back. We're nationwide.
Yes.
Okay, this one is called "Okay Boomer." Starts with an epigraph. Get your words straight, Jack. Let's do push-ups here together, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take an IQ test. Joe Biden. In the TV show of life, you'd best hit pause. Rewind it back until it's as it was. When all the girls were hot, the stars were white, the president was black. You slept at night, assured there was a person with a plan, a theme song, and a striking "Yes, we can" on a bumper sticker on the Porsche. The "we" you mean does not mean you, of course, but what the hell. It's springtime every day when lawns are watered and you get your way in politics and love and rock and roll. And what is left is what you can't control and try not to think about. An orange sky burns in the distance as the airplanes fly on improvised routes, and golfers still tee off, ignoring the smoke, trying not to cough. You soon retreat to where the clash becomes a vaguely West Side Story flash of someone's switchblade last mid-century. You stare him down again, an enemy seen far away in memory's telescope, a dubious victory, nostalgic hope that we can win again, that will unite lifeguards and patrons with all the wrongs set right by folksy charm and a steel-eyed show of nerve. An anecdote you're holding in reserve and hope you won't fuck up. A reverie that seems so vivid and malarkey-free. Perhaps it's true. Perhaps it's relevant. Another bit of airtime badly spent. An answered question no one thought to ask. Another move unsuited to the task. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Quincy. All right. Next is Nicole. Nicole Caruso Garcia, if you could please unmute. Uh-oh, you're not Nicole. You're Michael. You can't fool me. I don't know what happened to her.
Did I disappear?
No, you're here. You're here.
I'm here.
Not to worry. Not to worry.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay.
Well,
So we're all set? Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
all set.
So I have a short poem. It's only 10 lines, but it's kind of a long title, also 10 words. So the title is Seeing Facebook Praise for a Weasel Winning a Poetry Prize. Sour grapes? I wouldn't use those words. Folks share he's being feted. Gross. I know firsthand this predator who's won the prize. When I say from my refusals, he tried to prize consent, my friend confides, and how she words it guts me. My no was not allowed to mean no. Same guy will post a crowded subway, no one but him helping harassed damsels. To prize more praise, he'll add, most people are cowards. His words, no doubt, will claim another prize. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Now we're going to go to our first feature, who is Jeff Holt. Jeff, if you could, whoops, I'm striking out here with this moving target of a participants list here. Bye, Harvey. Okay, Jeff Holt, I'm going to say, give you a little intro first. Jeff Holt is a mental health therapist in Dallas, Texas. Yes, I think we have 2 Texans here reading today. This is maybe a first, certainly a first for Carmine Street Metrics, because I see Michael Shewmaker is from Texarkana. Yes, Texarkana. And Jeff is the author of The Harvest, which is an imprint of White Violet Press, or what's now known as Kelsey Books. And that is where you would go to get a copy of The Harvest. Jeff has published poems in journals including Measure, The Nervous Breakdown, String Poets, and also in anthologies such as the Able Muse Anthology, A Mind Apart, Melancholy, Madness, and Addiction, and a sonnet anthology, Sonnets, 150 sonnets. Okay, well, welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, great. Oh, I'm going to start out with a poem called A Disaster. A brief discussion, then security like ants sprang into view. These suits have come for you. Others will pack your things for privacy. You tried to tell them you could work much faster. They stared and you despaired. You thought your boss had cared when you were sick. She hissed, "You're a disaster." All present shook your hand, wished you the best, their eyes like chips of ice. Walking, you feel a vice gripping your gut. You failed the final test. Not knowing why, you drift between blank men out of a tomb you'll never haunt again. And next one is called Functional. And just so you know, I mean, most people probably know, but Cymbalta, Abilify, and Klonopin are all psychiatric drugs. I fumbled through a shelf of empty bottles. Where's my Cymbalta, my Abilify? Anxiety creeps over me. I'll die without my Klonopin. I wake up rattled, hands aching, curled in fists. The enemy has vanished, leaving sweat and memories. Old fears mock me, remind of my disease. Just take away my pills and I would be as paranoid as a feral cat. I never dreamed I'd stalk around a hospital like that. But I collapsed and everything I thought was me dissolved into a stranger's scream. I saw myself lash out and curse and bite, but I was in the walls, floating, grown numb. No one could reach the creature I'd become. I spent 2 weeks in hell where bright sunlight glared down upon the ruins of my mind. No medications helped. Anxiety burned constantly. Then dreaded ECT. Like cuckoo's nest, I feared that I'd be singed into a vegetable. They put me out. I woke a bit confused and still depressed. Repeat ×3. That night, my best friends visited. I laughed. We talked about old times. Since my electroshock, I have been stable just with pills. No ghosts, no more panic lasting for days, no more razors, no more attempting and failing to grieve old buried wounds from long ago. But still, I dream of losing that which heals my brain. A part of me remembers being insane. Few know my secret. I am functional. And then for a total change of pace, the choir. Their leader lifts his hand. They rise as one, like soldiers tensed before a battlefield. Holding their hymnals close, they hear again the organ's call. Soon they join in, made bold by stanzas asking men to bathe in blood. They stand together in their crimson gowns, bright books in hand, their faces stiff as wood, in ranks like gods as yet uncaptured pawns. I sit inside this house of faith, head bowed, a child again, confused by reverence. I was baptized to make my parents proud, but find no comfort in God's violence. I crouch in silence, wishing I could lie and join these warriors, unafraid to die. Okay, and this next one is about a stalker. It's a longer poem. Starts out with an epigraph. Between the birthmark and the stain, between the ocean and your open vein, between the snowman and the rain, once again, love calls you by your name. Leonard Cohen. Matt is my man. He helps me to unwind. Without him, I'm a scarecrow people fear. I pull out slowly and my back tires grind the gravel like the saws you sometimes hear. Seeing Matt's name carved in the steering wheel, I lift my razor blade and start to trace the jagged letters. Then I turn and peel out like Dale Earnhardt. I can see Matt's face that last night we made love, wrathful, unreal. When I was coming, he jerked for my kiss. Early today, Matt went to therapy. His truck, a Ford that's yellow like dried piss, was at the office of Her Majesty, Dr. Sharon White. He wouldn't miss that sacred hour. I know she's fucking him. Since Matt's been seeing her, he's been controlled. With her dark hair pulled back, her skirt so prim, she stepped out of her office and they strolled around the lawn. She keeps herself so trim. Where was he going with that fucking shrink? There's the steel mill no one has worked in years, crouched like a spider that's about to slink across the road. I'd love to grab some beers and bring Matt there handcuffed. What would he think? I'd make him tell me why he's been so mad. Sure, I said some things I shouldn't say. I wouldn't cut old Butch, I'm not that bad. But Matt knows how I love. I'm all the way. And he would mutilate this love we've had. I dig my razor blade into my thigh. 3 days ago, Matt banned me from his home. He just stared blankly as I screamed, "Why? Why?" He wouldn't even let me get my comb when I came back. I told him I might die, and if I did, my blood was on his head. The smirk he brandished as he slammed the door said everything. The bastard wished me dead. I couldn't breathe. Had I just been his whore? God damn it, my whole fucking seat is red. I cut too deeply, picturing Matt's neck. But now I'm giggling. This little flood between my legs could cause a guy to wreck. A trucker might look over, see the blood. If so, I'd smile, reach down, then flick a speck into his cab. He'd think that he'd been cursed, baptized with menstrual blood by some young witch. I'd cackle as he crashed and his truck burst into bright petrol flames. My thigh begins to itch, but I am laughing harder. What's the worst thing that could happen? I've lost everything. Here's Elm, then Oak, Matt Street. This is absurd. I've wound up here where all the streetlights sting my weary eyes, where every ugly word Matt shouted burns again. I stroked the ring he lost last week. Love, we were meant to be. Deep down, Matt loves me. He's been hypnotized. That's not his fault. Our love was pure and free until he met the succubus disguised as Dr. White. She hid his love for me deep in his mind and smiled and twitched her ass. My head is aching and my stomach feels as shaky as a sheep stuck in a mountain pass. It's been 3 days now. Nothing heals. I stop my car. I'm almost out of gas. I know my purpose now, to love or die. I can't come to the door, but there's a creek beside the house that I can edge along. Checking my compact, I look like a freak. My cheeks are twitching and my eyes are wrong, bloodshot and narrowed, not what Matt will want. But it's his fault that I am such a mess. I have no choice tonight but to confront my cheating boyfriend. Maybe he'll confess and take me back, and I will kill that cunt. White's office walls will have a new design. I'm stepping from my car into the black wind-punished night to take back what is mine. Matt, love, you know you have the warmth I lack. I clench my blade. Blood runs a thin red line. I'm coming, love. Nothing can hold me back. Last poem is called The Waiting Room. This is the place where families cross their legs and stare sightless at unobtrusive art. This is the place where every minute drags like an old woman clutching at her heart. A mother clasps her hands as if in prayer, then bows her head and curses quietly. A husband thinks that if he'd just seen more, his wife would not be having surgery. Death breathes upon these souls who wait in need of angels wearing scrubs to proffer grace. All wait alone, and none are reassured by memories of a loved one's pleading face. In purgatory, they await the words of gods who fail as often as succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And let's see if I can. Okay. If everyone wants to unmute themselves at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. It's good to see you. And even greater to hear you. It's been a long time. Okay. Is Gena Gruz here? I don't see her.
Yes, I'm right here.
You're right here. Okay.
Somewhere.
I don't try to. There you are.
How are you? Nice to meet you. My name is Gena Gruz, and I will read one short poem.
Yeah, wait, could you wait 1 second, Gena? I'm turning off the chat, which we're not supposed to be using, and moving you to the spotlight. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Gena Gruz, and I would like to thank you all for this beautiful opportunity to give me to read the poem at the open mic. The Phalatrix. Douche, I miss your shivering body on the couch at 4 a.m., uploading files and sending the filtrate and pre-masturbating just in case. Each time I had to extract you from the other room where you camped out, clenching to solitude. You were uncomfortable with sharing consciousness, but I was only asking for your body. The only way for me to quit smoking was to do sword swallowing. But you moan, don't rape me. I miss the whip and your ripe moon-like eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gena. Thank you. Let's see. Dan Brown is here.
Yes, I am. Hi, Wendy.
Take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Hello, everybody. This poem is in 2 parts. Each is about a group of people who miss out on something because they were born too soon. It's called Of All the Luck. And here we go, part 1. In a bar in the future. Gold drams still glow on polished oak, though it's centuries since smoke. Several regulars are brooding thoughts of theirs on our master wishes having been fulfilled. One need no longer die, and we've cracked the cosmic why. They're wondering which of these erstwhile impossibilities it might be deemed the greater woe to have lived too soon to know. Worse still, to have joined the gone in sight of either one. An aspect left unsaid, conceivably because unspeakable, what equity would call the essence of these woes, there being but the way it goes. 2. Think of the pagan greats who dwell in a multi-level hell, although no lower than on level 1 of 10, where Dante felt doctrinally compelled to put them. Antiquity's titans, Socrates, Homer, Horace, the whole contingent made reseeable, if through a scrim of limbic mists. Phantoms D enlists his powers to portray as, how is one to say it per their state's equivocality? Diaphanously damned? Sinless souls condemned never to get to rise a quarter inch towards paradise, and only because they lived before a blazing meteor called Christ. Of all the luck, injustice run amok, leaving D to ask how one installed on as much as a bench in heaven, far less a throne, could even begin to countenance so undeserved a circumstance. Who questions me? An argument with which D, hugely bent on setting doubts aside, is wholly satisfied. His maker? Rather less, imaginably. A monarch known to take an unexpected break from thundering commands to cup his head within his hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay.
Thank you.
I think let's see, Chris Brandt is next. Okay, welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm reading a poem called Asymptote. An asymptote is a mathematical line which approaches but never reaches and on another axis on the graph. A particular kind of this asymptotic line that I'm referring to is one that rises very slowly as it approaches the y-axis and then shoots up extremely fast. So asymptote. Strip mines eat away a mountain range. Nukes eat silently our cellular defenses. The banks eat possibilities of change, and entertainment giants eat our senses. Children eat preservatives or grass by geogenetic accident of class. Men kill time in Pentagon cafes, mouthing war games, cooking up a name to call death on the news. In that maze, generals come and go, hungering for fame, talking first strike in spot-marked X, and feeding us their steel-headed sex.
Excuse me, Chris, somebody has a lot of interference going on.
Hang on.
Joe.
Wendy, you need to mute everyone.
Okay, great. You can start over if you want.
Okay. Strip mines eat away a mountain range. Nukes eat silently our cellular defenses. The banks eat possibilities of change, and entertainment giants eat our senses. Children eat preservatives or grass by geogenetic accident of class. Men kill time in Pentagon cafes, mouthing war games, cooking up a name to call death on the news. In that maze, generals come and go, hungering for fame, talking first strike and spots marked X, and feeding us their steel-headed sex. In the city, a real vegetable's a find, but TV dietitians get 5 C's a day to make cardboard taste good in our mind. And when the chemical technicians have their way, we will eat oil, though it eats us back, and Exxon fattens up on what we lack. It takes 9 weeks to die of malnutrition for a body's 1,000,000 mouths to eat it. How long will it take a world in our condition, living on our poisons, to be deleted? And there is no purpose, there is no hero, eating our future till we're nothing but zero. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, we can have one more open mic reader. Alex, Pepple, are you there? Yes, there you are. Terrific. Take it away. Oh,
Unmute, okay.
okay, thank you.
All right, I will read the City of Angels, eponymous with the movie, 1998 movie of the same name. And you can essentially, it's an ekphrasis for the movie. City of Angels. In City of Angels, was Maggie Rice forced to pay a price when her character, portrayed by Meg Ryan, caused patrons to cry on her death close to the end for taking as mate the conflicted Seth Plath, who for an angel appeared rather average, as played by Nicolas Cage. He'd leap from overpasses in a trench coat, like the series Showboat. Dawn rapture of woman / angel turned a man. Why not just say amen and maybe produce a surreal comedy primed for Academy Awards? Yet scripting on, screenwriter Dana Stevens, surely in writer's heavens, teamed up with director Brad Silberling to hint that for an earthling, the strive for an ethereal moral angle is likely to strangle, as when an overextended metaphor threatens to make a bore in a leap with limbs gone raggedy from comedy to tragedy. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, people can unmute if you want to thank our open mic group at this point. And yeah. Thank you all readers. And let's see, we're going to move on to our first feature. If you could mute yourselves again. Second feature, who is, let's see, do I have this right? Michael, no, this is not right. That's not Michael. Let's see. Michael Shewmaker. Okay. Little introduction for Michael. He's the author of Penumbra, which was the winner of the 2016 Hollis Summers Poetry Prize, and available on Amazon. I know. He's a recipient of fellowships for Breadloaf and Swanee and Stanford University, where he was a Wallace Stegner Fellow and where he now teaches creative writing. His recent poems have appeared in journals including Best American Poetry, Southern Review, Yale Review, and Missouri Review, and other literary journals and anthologies. And as I said, he hails from Texarkana, Texas. Another 2 Texans in one reading. That's got to be, well, it's certainly a record for us. Okay, looking forward to hearing you, Michael. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. And thanks, Anton, and everybody else that had a hand in organizing this. I'm really glad to be here with y'all. I'm just going to read a couple poems from my book and then a couple new poems. And if I have a little bit of time left over, I'll read a bonus poem. All right. The Lepidopterist. The year before the long divorce, she framed his dearest species. The white witch, the atlas, the clouded bordered brindle, matted each in black and hung them carefully among the portraits on their bedroom wall. To teach herself to love, she read about his practice, examined diagrams, minutia named. But when she lay close, he sweat beneath the spread, and stirring to her heat, he dreamt in grays of garish wings unfolding to disclose the owlish eyes of the Io, those bright lies burning above their bed. Against the windows, the wild moths bred. She never slept, her gaze unchanged. Are you awake? She often said. Babel. Weightless, the winter constellations tower above our poor lit city. Smoothing the drapes she chose for him, I cannot find the words. Night is a lesson we must learn, I wrote in verse. She stills his cradle, folds the spread, and worse, the moonlight is a subtle sword. There is no answer in this room, where, silent, we readied for our unborn son. And now, to endure the hours our loss has won, she stacks his blocks to spell his name. Listen, our grief is what we own. Heat lightning. For hours on our porch, hardly a word between us, we watched it rake the distant fields. You took my hand when the wind worried the gate latch, the forked oak's leaves. The moon rose over the silo. Curious, you asked, why can't we hear it? And while I knew the reason, how sound will travel only so far, I thought of how you didn't know I knew, how you undressed the night before for someone else, and since it was late, Can a vow be broken if it's made in silence? Since the wind had finally settled and the moon risen high, since the lightning still swept the farthest fields, I answered, I don't know. Revenant. All night, the wildfires burn in paradise. You've been in Texas for a week, comforting your mother. Ashes swarm our porch light in a warm wind. How long will you be gone? I ask. You say that you're not sure. It's hard. Her new apartment strewn with boxes, and she won't eat. Outside, the wind lashes against the eaves, but still no rain. Last night, you say, you woke, confused, and half asleep, stumbling down the dim-lit hall to find the bathroom door, you were struck still. A shadow stepped out from the wall, a woman in a gown. Startled, you couldn't make out her face. A shape on a moth's wing or a dark fire, until you turned to face her. I'd hung my mother's mirror and forgotten. The ashes cloud the moon, the stars, the thought that will not leave me. One of us will learn to live without the other. So tonight, after the balm of a warm shower, an exact shave, I'll say your name. I'll say it into the faintly clouded glass. I'll say it and I'll say it until it's not myself that's calling back. All right, last poem. Lament. At night, the dead lovers of the living wade out of the sea and build small fires along the break. They shed their heavy coats, empty their pockets of debris. They know they have lost something, but can't say what. The fires falter in the wind. Their faces flicker like paper lanterns. They never speak, only warm their hands. When the tide finally rises, extinguishing their fires, the current calls them back again. Pulling on their coats, they file into the waves. And somewhere, in a room the shade of deep water, the living lover of the last to disappear wakes weeping from a dream he can't remember. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michael. If everyone wants to unmute. Thanks very much. Great having you, seriously. At this point, we're going to take a 5-minute break. And Alex will stop recording so you can unmute yourselves and say whatever you want. Take it, James Nicola is not here, right? Okay, James Nicola is not here. So the next open mic reader is Marion Shore. All right, Marion.
Of course, Wendy called on me when I was chewing on something, but I swallowed it.
Okay, good.
Now, I just want to qualify that the subject of this poem is actually my favorite play although you might not know it from the poem. Uncle Vanya. I must confess I didn't like the play. I tired of their whinging and complaining, their boredom and self-pity. Couldn't they have gotten on with life instead of draining their bitter dregs around the samovar, bewailing their bad luck and blighted land to the rippling of a sad guitar? But now, too late, I understand. I should have been more like the plain girl Sonia, who knew through faith all things can be endured. Instead, I've turned out more like Uncle Vanya, envious and cynical and bored. Hope scattered on the ground like so much litter, as old as he was then and just as bitter.
Marion, that was very nice.
Thank you.
And next is Harvey Soss. Okay, there you are. To unmute.
So, okay. Again, I invite you all to join Artful Dodgers next Saturday at our reading at 4 o'clock on Eventbrite. Since apparently I haven't read it before, I'll be reading a poem called Romeo and Juliet Without the Death. You'd think after 35 years of being asked to take out the garbage, her voice would grate on him. But no, that would have been the old pre-Juliet Romeo. He'd take comfort in her reminding him of his husbandly duties, a to-do list of what to do and where to go. A teasing badinage, so Juliet, even factional loyalists must concede how death-defyingly far they've come. Certainly, family divisions remain somewhat in residence in the kids' rooms on the second floor of their empty nest. In the blue room, a pennant on the wall urges, go Montagues, in the pink, no less strongly defended, go Capulets. Fierce pacifists, they chalked the wheels of such combative after-school activities as color war, tug of war, all that medieval sort of thing, preaching and practicing an ecumenical harmony, the mere mention of which would once have resulted in bloodshed. Their house rule numero uno was that duels with anything other than wooden swords or loaves of bread shorter and thicker than French baguettes were strictly forbidden, exception being made for the exchange of sharp cheeses on the Piazza del Bra. Consequently, the maturation of their offspring was practically bloodless. Raised not to pose a threat of poisoning or hymeneal hysteria to significant others, the epoxy mix of Montague and Capulet, an unbreakable bond between them. Go Montagues, go Capulet, go us. With not so much as a nod to tiger parenting, neither sought to emulate the beast. Relying upon judicious upbringing, cool heads, the unfortunate example of cousin Tybalt to maintain the peace. Love standing against all the reasons they shouldn't have wed. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Harvey. Let's all, no, what happened here? Where am I? Trying to find you on, you seem to be moving around. Ah, okay. I don't know what's going on with the computer, but all right. I think that's the end of our open.
Peter Crock.
I think Peter Crock is not here. Peter Crock, are you here? No.
He was.
He was, but he left and he didn't come back. Or else he can unmute himself and be welcome, but I think he's gone. So our last feature is George Szirtes. Thank you. Coming to us all the way from the UK through the magic of Zoom. George's 12th book of poems, wow, real, won the T.S. Eliot Prize. And he's been shortlisted twice for the T.S. Eliot Prize since then. That was in 2004. His latest book is Mapping the Delta, latest poetry book. He also has a memoir, The Photographer at 16, published in 2019. And a lot of his books are available on Amazon if you're not yet boycotting Amazon. It's, hard to avoid and a good place to get a hold of George's books. He was also awarded the James Tate Black Prize in 2020 for his memoir. And he's a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature and a winner of the International Booker Translator Prize. He has he translates from various languages, many languages, including Italian, German, Chinese, and Hungarian. And he's written for children, for radio, and for various composers. And we're really happy to have you here, George. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I should just correct you. I can't translate from all those languages.
You can't.
That's me being translated into them. I only
So which,
use Latin.
which ones I was going to be? I was quite amazed. Like Chinese?
I think I would be doing really well. No,
So
I translate from Hungarian because Hungary is where I was born. It's lovely to hear. Thank you very much for the kind invitation and for being able to listen to so much intelligence and grace and clarity in the work that I have heard. Thank you. Okay, I'll read a few poems. This first one, these are all from an upcoming book. The last book you mentioned was in 2016. The new book will be in 2020 and should be called Fresh Out of the Sky. The book begins with 25 terza rima poems, all to do with early days in England. We arrived in England in 1956 after the Hungarian Revolution. One of the things we had to get used to was the weather. I don't know if you know what a pea super is. A pea super is a fog as thick as pea soup. And that was something that we had to get used to. Pea super. Sometimes the whole place merges into grey. Lampposts, bollards, shop windows, buses vanish into a soup that's neither night nor day, but blankness, like a face without a blemish, a steamed up mirror with a picture of nobody, nothing but fog, nothing from start to finish. The streets are soaked. Grass verges, slick and muddy, are slush-filled pulp. You tread through clots of thickening mist that seem to pulse and eddy like the sea while tying itself in knots. Where has everyone gone? Perhaps they've drowned or hidden in invisible dark slots that won't materialize until they're found. Then one appears, a vague form looming up, then swaying off, an apparition gowned in fog, discoloration in a half-full cup of forgotten tea. So spirits, one by one, appear, then fade at the point where things stop being things. This, then, is the fabled London of the novels, where everyone is lost in stories that tail off, then carry on without them, without echo, at no cost. My second poem is called One Nation, which is a kind of reflection on the fact that the UK has now withdrawn from Europe, European Union. And it's one nation insofar as we are actually two or three, in fact, several nations. In terms of the technical things, if you're interested in things like that, it's in 4 very short parts. And in the first word matches the last word of each line. The place hasn't changed. Things are in their place. Things remain exactly what they were, just things. Home comforts are what we expect of home. Sunlight hovers on walls, remaining sunlight even when spread on pavements. Our keel is more or less even. Our clothes are comfortable simply because they're our clothes. Back to front, front to back we go until we're back at the front. We try to preserve a united front. Here is where we are. Our place is always here. The softness of the place, the pressing into grass, the warmth when it arrives in forms of grace, the soft bricks, the earth that crumbles, rain that gentles and does not precipitate ruin, tempered climbs, our fingers on the pulse of dinner and bed, the night fumbling for pills. The poor will get poorer, the rich richer. The wind of fortune bloweth where it listeth. Justice is blind and carries a switchblade. We preserve our kind. Our forces remain alert and disciplined. We will creep a little closer to the ground. After today, we will face the everyday grind with less resolution. Things will be defined. Life will be returned exactly as found. But something will have broken. The broken chair will litter up the hall. The broken machine will rust in a shed. Meanwhile, jets rise into a sky where nothing breaks, or when it does, things fall and break still more. The broken do not fly. The month begins in pieces on the floor. There's a set in a new book which are called, with great cheek, dream songs. This is one of them, A Dream of Leaving. There they were, stuck in eternal sunlight, with barely a quivering of leaves. It was as if the clouds, with all their benevolent rain, had been stolen by a crowd of thieves. Time did not move, or rather it rushed by in silence on dream Greece, leaving behind a cartoon panic played out in a cinema at the back of the house in a broken mind. Too many broken minds for lack of cloud and shade, too much stiffness in the solid air. Nothing had moved inside the stifling house. The best thing was to get right out of there. I read you 3 miniatures. The miniatures are 10 lines long and are in the form of 3 haiku and 1 5-syllable line. And I've been writing is throughout the whole of the pandemic. A selection of them will be in the new book. They're not all about the pandemic. This one is called Russian Folktale. Imagine the bear at the door. Invite him in. Let him settle down. He will not get up, not for a long time. The house is his now, not yours. This is a fable and far too ambiguous, but the dead are dead and the bear remains. Ghost fish. The aquarium was empty. Ghosts of fish swam in diminishing circles. Fronds trembled around them. It had been good while it lasted. Soon, the lights would go off, leaving an unearthly glow. Mortality stinks, one ghost fish remarked. dream. Then a sun came out, and they sat in a garden as dusk drew closer, and they talked as once people had talked. Suddenly, there was time and light that lived a new life. All this had been dreamt. Perhaps waking too was dreamt, like words and sunlight. I'll finish with two sonnets. This one is called Lead in Yellow. For many years, for about 6 years, I wrote sonnets and sequences of sonnets about colors, particular colors that I'd fallen in love with. Then I didn't do it for a long time, and I was invited to a color conference, I don't know, a few months ago, and I was given a particular color called lead tin yellow. So I went back to the sonnet form for this. It's like trying to find just precisely the right color, the color that you sort of remember but can't quite name. We were back in the village after many years of traveling. The thin sunlight was spread across the walls like a faint film of tears or butter or gold. The smell of fresh baked bread billowed from an open window. The flowers in the grass were amber, but somehow tired, and nothing was quite right. We'd walked long hours to get here. There was something we desired from it, a memory perhaps, a kind of idyll that would remain elusive. Were we born in such a place? Could this village be home? It felt like returning, like clothes we'd worn from childhood. What was that yellow? Faint chrome? Dull sulfur? What still remained possible? And I'll finish with the second sonnet. And this is a sonnet reflecting upon the pandemic. We were all confined to our houses, and they read books and we watched films. So it's a bit like going into an eternal cinema. In memoriam, a year of anxiety. Off the cold street, into the cinema, was a story we told ourselves. It was like entering dense darkness, as one does, wholly instinctive and subliminal. So we hardly knew what we were crossing to. The film was flickering soundless on the wall, like sunlight shaken out of shape. We'd call each other's names out when the film was through and listened out for hours. It couldn't last, but there we remained, as if in a dream, in which we drifted to some vast extreme of emptiness through which a poison passed. Outside, wind blew, and rain poured out its heart as it had done, right from the very start. Thank you.
Thank you, George. That was beautiful. And please unmute at this point and thank George. And all of our readers today are open mic readers, and let's see, trying to remove your spotlight here. Oh, there, I guess it worked. All our open mic readers and our 3 features, of course, Jeff Holt, Michael Shewmaker, and George Szirtes. It was really a pleasure to have all of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for reading, and we'll close the reading now.